Hello all my lovely subscribers and viewers. My name is Sarah and I'm very happy that you decided to join me for this tutorial. So in today's video I will be showing you how to crochet this massive pumpkin. He is super cute, honestly my favorite pumpkin ever. And for this tutorial we're going to need some yarn. So this is kind of like a scrap project, so whatever yarn you have left over will work. You could use size 4 or size 6 like this. This is some type of wool blend. I don't have the label anymore and I bought it a long time ago. So any size 6 yarn for the body. This green color will be my tendrils, which I will be double stranding this yarn for this tutorial. You can find a size 6 green if you'd prefer to just do a single strand. And then for the stem, I will also be double stranding size 4 yarn because I don't have any brown on hand. I'm going to switch over to the overhead view and I will show you the rest of the materials and then we will get started. Okay, for this tutorial we are going to need a crochet hook that goes with your yarn. For this size 6 yarn, I will be using an 8mm. You also need scissors and a sewing needle. You will also need some stuffing. For this pumpkin, I will be using all of this scrap that I have on hand. This is, like I said, a really good pattern to just use what you have on hand. And since I'm sort of running low on stuffing, I will just be stuffing with scrap yarn. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a chain. Now this pumpkin, the more you chain, the taller your pumpkin will be. The less you chain, the shorter your pumpkin will be. For me, we will be leaving a long tail on this end. And then we will start a slip knot, like so. And we will be chaining a certain amount. I will be starting off with a chain of 20 and then see how long that is. There we are. So this is a chain of 20. Your final pumpkin will be about that tall when you're done. I want mine to be taller, so I'm going to be doing 25. There we are. So this is the chain of 25. It will be about yay tall. Now the next step, row 2, we will start by chaining 1. And we're going to half double crochet all the way down. I do this by half double crocheting into the back loops of the chains instead of through the front, so you get a beautiful V on the bottom. You don't have to do this, but this is my preferred method. Now, once you've finished row 1, we will begin row 2. For row 2 and all the rows following, we will be chaining 1 and we will be turning our work. Now, before I go forward, I'm going to explain a little bit of the anatomy of half double crochet just so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So on the top we have our V, just like any other stitch would have. And then we also have this hump right below the V. This right here. This is where we will be crocheting these loops right here to get our very defined rib. You know what? Give me a second. The camera's falling. Hold on. Okay, hopefully the camera will not slide anymore. If it does, I'm sorry. The camera stand and I don't agree. So, as I was saying, we will be half double crocheting into this loop right here throughout the entire pattern. Let me show you what that looks like. Yarn over and insert into that loop. You may see another loop right here. We will not be crocheting into this portion. We will be ignoring it. So skip this loop right here. This is not the stitch I am talking about. Go into this really easy wide stitch. And then when you turn your work over, you'll see that you have a very defined rib. Some patterns call for you to crochet into the back loop only to get a defined V. If this is easier for you, or if you're working with a yarn that you can barely tell what the front posts are, then, well, I'm going to be calling it the front humps. Then you can just crochet in the back loop and you'll get a very similar look. But for this pattern, I will be crocheting in these front loops. So what you will do is you will half double crochet all the way down, and then we will start round 2 over again until we get the length we desire. For my pumpkin, I will be crocheting until I run out of yarn. And this will make the pumpkin quite wide, but my goal is to get rid of this yarn, so that's what I will be doing. I will be using it. You will need about 3 or 4 feet left over to finish sewing up the side and closing the pumpkin, so keep that in mind if you do use all your yarn. You will need enough to go across the whole row for 1 more crochet to close it, and then enough to sew the 2 ends together. Now, the width of your rectangle will depend on how wide you want your pumpkin to be, so the whole circumference of it. I can't remember how many I did for this. I just did it until I ran out of yarn. So when you're done, when you're starting to get a length that you want, you will be folding it like this, and that'll tell you how wide your pumpkin is. If that doesn't make any sense, just stick around and I'll show you in just a second. So I will continue following row 2's instructions all the way until I run out of yarn, and then I will come back on here and I'll show you how to finish the pumpkin off. I'm back and I have crocheted until I had about this much yarn left, just a little bit left. When you crochet your pumpkin, you'll want to finish your final row with your working yarn and your tail on the same side, so that when we seam this down, we'll have a tail on both ends of the pumpkin. So it's kind of hard to show what's happening because of how big this is, but we will be seaming this side down, and then that will be our width of the pumpkin. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So turn your work, and we're going to be working down and across. There we are. We're going to be working down and across this seam right here. So this is a chain foundation, and then we will be working into so start with the chain 1, we'll be working into our front posts area. So insert into the chain and then through that stitch, and we will single crochet. And then into the next chain and into the next half double crochet. And we're going to repeat this all the way down. Once you arrive at the end of the row, you will chain 1 and fasten off. I have a little bit more yarn than I'm going to need, but here we are. Now it is seamed, and now what we'll do is we'll turn the work right side out. So you'll want these single crochet stitches right here to be on the inside. So flip it through. There we are. Here's the single crochet seam. It's on the inside. We did lose a ribbing by doing this, but I honestly think it's unnoticeable. You can goof around with the seam and try and figure out a way to have the chain poke out, but I just want to make this as simple as I possibly can for you. So now what we'll do is we will take one end, doesn't matter which. I will be working with my slightly shorter end, and we're going to thread our needle. Hopefully I can get it through. Yep, maybe. Okay, I'm just gonna switch to my bigger plastic needle for this, because this yarn is a little too thick. So thread your needle, and what we're going to do is we're going to actually sew through these the top of each rib all the way around. So we will be going through and through and through, like so. And we're going to do this all the way around till we come back around. And when you arrive back around, just insert it through and then through that first loop that we went through. Now for this end, we're going to pull this tight. Depending on the yarn you're using, you'll want to be careful because you don't want to snap the yarn. If you're using a plush yarn or something similar, you'll just want to be careful how you pull this. So there is it closed. And there is a bit of a hole, but it is a lot of material to close up, so don't be alarmed if there is a little bit of a hole. It's not a big deal. Now what we're going to do is we're going to tie a knot to make sure this end isn't going to go anywhere for now, and just leave this end here. We will secure this again once more after we do the top. So at this point you'll have the bottom formed, and we'll need to do the top. We're going to do the top in the exact same way, but we're not going to pull it closed because we will need to stuff this before moving forward. So, working on the outside, go through the humps of each of these half double crochets. Oof. Just got hooked a bit. It's okay. Okay, now at this point we are going to stuff. I'm going to zoom out the camera real quick though so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so the plan was to use scrap yarn to stuff this, but because my holes are somewhat large on this guy, I will only be using stuffing. And I'm only going to stuff this very lightly, just enough so that it keeps its shape. Let me show you. For this guy, he's very, very squishy and he holds his shape quite well. So I'm just going to put all of this in here. And honestly, it's even better if it's a little lumpy. So it doesn't have to be perfectly round. When you stuff it, you can close up this hole. You can leave this hole a little bit bigger because this is where the stem is going to go and it will be covered. So thread your needle, and what we're going to do is take this yarn all the way down to the other hole, just like so. And at this point, I'm going to tug on it. This is going to collapse it and give it more of a pumpkin shape. Now I will be tying this end off with the other one. I'll tie it nice and tight. Just like so. So you can just give it a little bit of a, just move the stuffing around until it's where you want it to be, and there you have your pumpkin base. So the final thing we're going to do is we're going to tuck these ends in, and what you can do with these ends, since they're on the bottom, is we can actually close up this hole for good. Strand both your yarn and just sew through it. Like that. Now it's closed officially, and we can tuck this in to the pumpkin. Okay, I'm going to thread it around a bit, and because this hole's still open on the top, I'm just going to shove all of this in here. It's free stuffing, just like that. So the bottom's closed completely. The top is open a bit, but we will close it when we put the stem on, which is what we'll do next. Hey, I'm back. I had a quick lunch break, but now we're going to crochet the stem and the tendrils, starting with the stem. So I will be double stranding my yarn for this. You could use a size 6 yarn. Okay, I just had a phone call, so if I repeat myself, I'm sorry, but double strand is what I'm going to use. You could use a size 6 yarn if you have it on hand. I'm going to quickly zoom in the camera so you can see me better, and then we're going to crochet the stem finally. Alright, so to begin the stem, we're going to crochet a magic ring or using the chain 2 method, whichever one is your preferred method. I will be doing the chain 2 method. Now we will chain 2, and we're going to put, unless you're using magic ring, then you're not going to chain 2. Put 6 single crochets into your magic ring or your chain 2. Okay. Close up your hole, and then we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch. Slip stitch like so. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to single crochet all the way around for a total of 6 stitches. In the back loop only. I don't know if I said that, but in the back loop only. All right, next we will crochet for 3 or 4 more rounds, just 6 stitches in each row. You can make your stem taller or shorter depending on your preference, so the more rounds you add now, the longer it'll be. So once you start getting your stem together, what you could do is you can test it on your pumpkin, see if you want it any longer or shorter. I actually think that this is really cute, being really short. So I'm going to fasten off here. So what you're going to do is you're going to slip stitch, chain 1, and fasten off. You'll need a length of yarn for sewing. Okay, so the next step is to secure your magic ring or your chain 2 tail. Some people do this, some people don't, whatever you want to do. I choose to do it because it means your piece will last a lot longer. So I highly recommend that you just tie a couple of knots and call it good. There we are. Turn your piece right side out, and there we have our stem. Probably the easiest part of this entire process, the quickest part, and then we will be sewing this on, which we'll do right now, and then we'll get to the tendrils. Thread your needle, and then working around your hole in the pumpkin, just start sewing this piece on. Okay, at this point you can put a little bit of stuffing in the stem. You don't have to, but I will be just putting a little bit up in there so that it holds its shape more readily, and then finish sewing it closed. And once you are finished sewing it on, you can tie a knot by inserting your needle in, creating an arch, and then putting your needle through that arch and pulling it tight. And there you have a knot. Now you can tuck this end into the body, well, the pumpkin technically. And I'm going to cut this because the yarn's darker, so I don't want people to be able to see it in the pumpkin. So now at this point you can leave the pumpkin as it is, or we can make our tendrils. You can double strand some yarn like I'm going to be doing, or you can make them even smaller than that and just do the single strand of size 4 yarn. Let's just get into this. So I'm going to be using this lighter green. It's going to go with this lighter pumpkin color. And you want to start with a medium-sized length of yarn so it's easier to tuck in, and make a slip knot. And you're going to chain a certain amount. So I'm going to be chaining 30. And when we crochet it, it will tighten up and become a coil, but you can do any number you want. Okay, I changed my mind. I'm actually going to be crocheting 20 chains instead of the 30 I was thinking I was going to do. And what we're going to do is we're going to skip our first chain and we're going to half double crochet 3 into the next chain. And you will be putting 3 half double crochets in every single chain all the way down. And then when you're done, you'll just fasten off and sew it on. And you can make as many of these as you want. You can make 2, 3, 1. You don't even have to make any. Once you arrive at the end, you'll chain 1 and fasten off. And here's the finished tendril at 20 chains. I'm really glad I didn't do 30 or it would have been absolutely huge. So the way you sew this on is you first look at your pumpkin and you decide where you want it to be hanging off. So I'll be hanging it off right here, and I'll just show you how to sew this one on. And I will be making a second one off camera, which I'll show you when it's finished and sewn on as well. So, sew this guy on by sewing between the stem and the pumpkin. Okay, and then taking the other end, we will also sew, and we'll tie these two tails together to secure the sewing job. And now we can tuck these ends in. Alrighty. If you want to crochet a second vine, go ahead and do it. Just chain a certain amount, 3 half double crochets in each chain, and you're good to go. I'm going to do that real quick off screen, and then I will come back and we'll close out the video. So give me one moment. Here is the final look for this pumpkin. For reference, this is a chain of 20 and this guy was a chain of 15. Thank you guys so much for seeing this tutorial through to the end. I really do hope you enjoyed it and it was helpful. The holiday season is closing in fast, so I hope you guys have enough time to crochet as many pumpkins as you need to cover your household, or if you are into market planning, to make some of these big pumpkins for your market. Otherwise, thank you so much for hanging out and crocheting along with me, and I can't wait to see you in the next tutorial. Bye!